Welcome back. And into this module, we are going to be looking at how you would develop a successful online coach mindset, because mindset will underpin everything you do. And based on your mindset, it's a really good indication of where how successful you will be and what results you will be getting. So it's really important that we spend some time in this area and really look at what are the things that we need to be doing to make sure that we set ourselves up for success. So in terms of the mindset, I've divided it up into a few different areas. So we've got confidence, clarity, the mentality of abundance, and positivity. And they're the 4 areas that we're going to be covering during this section. So starting with confidence. Now, any successful coach will need to have that inner confidence, which then goes into their outer confidence, because you need to be inspiring your clients. And if you are feeling unconfident, it will come over in the way that you speak, in the way that you give instructions. And if you are not expelling confidence, then your clients are not going to trust you. And then they're not going to get the results they need, because they're going to be thinking, is this what I should be doing? Now, it's interesting, the confidence issue, because in the past, I've come across online coaches, and I knew one who, was commanding an awful lot of money per hour. And from my experience of them, I wouldn't say that they were necessarily the best coach out there. And in fact, I know someone who had coaching with them, and they were telling me about their experience and some of the things they did together. And they weren't that impressed. However, this person was totally over the top confident in their abilities, like almost, they just believed in themselves so much. And sometimes that can really help in these relationships, because if you're confident, somebody else has got confidence. So if someone's scared and you say, oh, I'm scared as well, you're obviously going to be bringing in more feelings around being scared and fearful. But if someone's like, no, it's fine, we've got this, we're going to get this sorted, then you're like, okay, we've got this, we can do it together. So even if you're not sure about something, make sure you don't convey that in the way you're speaking, because I think something that I've learned over the years is I thought that there were people who had the answer to everything. I thought that there were mentors and coaches who, they just got this magic formula. And what I've learned over the years is there is no magic formula. And even, I've worked with some just outstanding entrepreneurs and some super successful entrepreneurs. And the image that everyone sees of these entrepreneurs is one of success and confidence, and like they've got everything together. And I've worked behind the scenes with quite a few of these entrepreneurs, and what I see is they are no different to us. They are no different to us thinking about how should we launch this, or who's going to come along, or they do all the same things. They worry, they look for inspiration elsewhere, they try stuff. It's messy action. It's just not as, from the outside it looks like everyone's got everything together, and it's not true. So what you need to do is, as a coach, you need to work on being confident in your convictions. And this is why it's really great to have a network around you, because then you can share outside of your coaching sessions. Okay, well, this came up and I'm struggling. What do you think? And that's what I've been able to do over the years, have conversations outside of my coaching sessions to really ask the questions that I needed to ask. But don't do that in front of your clients, because if they lose confidence in you, then that will be the breakdown of the relationship. So you need to think about your tone of voice and how you respond to questions. So if someone asks you a question you don't know, you could say something like, well, there are several ways you could approach that, and I just need to know a bit more about what it is you want to do so we can look at the best way for you to approach it. Don't say, oh, good one, I've got no idea. I've no idea, because then you'll be like, oh, okay. And then it's going to there's going to be a seed of doubt then. So this is super important. You need to have a confident mindset, and it's really important that you know this from the start, because this is going to be your secret power weapon to leading to a successful online coaching business. So when you're starting out, it might feel, okay, well, how am I going to get clients and how am I going to get this feedback that I need? So one of my tips is, when you start out, offer some free coaching in exchange for some feedback. So I explained in the earlier module how my friends moved into working as a stylist, and she's going around her friends and helping them with their wardrobe, searching out what colours work for them, etc., etc. And she's doing it for free. And we, at the same time, are giving her feedback. Okay, so this worked well for us. How about if you did this? What would we like from the sessions? What would we like from the follow-up sessions? And so we can give her genuine testimonials because we've experienced her service, but also she can learn from us and think about how she might offer her services to paying clients because she's worked and tried it out with us first. So that's my first tip. The other tip is, if you are doing these sessions for free, record them. And even when you're not doing them for free, record them. So if you're using Zoom, you can record the sessions. And then, even though it feels horrible, because I know what it's like when you hear your voice back, have a listen back and listen to the words you're using. And does it seem like you're confident in your advice, or do you sound shaky, or are you doing things all the time? So yesterday, I was talking to my friend and we were having the discussion around her business. And if she said to me, what do you think in terms of, how I presented to you? I could say, well, you did X, Y, and Z, and I thought you maybe should have done this a bit more. But if you haven't got that, if you're not doing it in person, like in my example, the way that you can do that is, like I say, record it, and then you can watch it and you can answer those questions for yourself. Or maybe get a friend to watch the videos back with you as well and say, I think maybe you should be doing this. So that's a really good way to learn more. And I was talking as well about when I was starting my speaking engagements, I used to ask for feedback, and I was saying about how I would put myself down through my speaking and say, oh, don't listen to me, or what do I know? But you shouldn't do that, because, like I said, it puts you as less confident. And maybe you're less confident inside, but you don't need to show that to everybody when you are trying to teach them or coach them. So when you have had a successful session, so for example, in my example around working with my friend who's becoming a stylist, it'd be a good thing for her to write down the results that she got from the time she spent with me. So she went through my colours that suit me, and we went through my wardrobe and we looked at the different colours that work in there and which don't. Now, she and I gave her some feedback, and I said, is this for me? And she taught me some other things about colours, and she then went out and she found something in my colours, a top, and she sent it to me last night. So if she wrote that down, she could write it down in her diary. So I worked with Claire. We went through and we found her colours, and it was really successful because Claire said she'd been feeling X, and I found her these colours. I found a specific top, and the top's not arrived yet, but when it comes, I will send a message to my friend and she can write that down, because there's two things with writing it down. One, it provides it's almost like a confidence boost, because, and this applies to anything actually, and I haven't done it myself, but it's one of those things I wish I had done. I've done lots of things in my entrepreneur journey, and I do remember some of them, but I'm sure there's so many things that I forget. So the seminar I did with somebody, or the workshop I put on, or the online course, or the coaching course I ran, or any of these things, and I forget about them. So write them down, and then when you're feeling like, I don't know if I've got this or whether I can do this anymore, you can look back at your notes and say, actually, yes. And in terms of noting down the results you're getting for your clients, you can say, look, this was the result. Like, I made Claire super happy because she felt like she didn't have anything to wear, or someone was struggling, in their career, and I managed to help them negotiate a new contract with their employer, and now they're earning £20,000 more, or whatever it might be, depending on what niche you're going to. So I think it's really, really important to write down the results you're getting for your clients. And then, like I say, it's got two purposes to that. So definitely do that. And remember, and I've said this a few times, but confidence comes with practice and experience. So here's an example. This is me on the stage speaking about probably membership sites, but it was some years ago. And if I watched it back now, I'd probably be cringing, thinking, why did you say that, Claire? Or why did you do that? But I would only get that confidence from practicing. And so the first time I did it, I was in a room of I think there was maybe 10 or 15 in the room. And in that room, there was probably 80. You can't see everybody on that picture, but it comes with practicing and experience, because you can read every public speaking book ever written, but you would still not get the confidence unless you did it yourself and practiced it. So whether you're speaking on stage or whether you're doing your first online coaching client, make sure you just do it, pretty much. Just like Nike say, look, just do it. And yes, it's not going to be brilliant the first time, but just keep going. And I'm sure you will see this as well, because I've seen it myself, and it's super scary. Like, to go on stage, I'd be nervous and I'd be worried, but the more you do it, the better you get. And remember as well, when you're doing this, you only need to be one step ahead of your client. So if you're doing career coaching, you only need to have been through that path yourself and know the different avenues you can take if you want to change career, or if you are coaching on social media and maybe you've built your own social media following and you know how to create posts effectively, or how to plan a schedule, or how to build community, or whatever it is you might be coaching around. You just need to be one step ahead of your client, because that's what they're looking for, the next step. So sometimes we can get into this situation where we feel like we have to keep learning. And I've been guilty of this myself, thinking I need another training course, I need another mentor, I need more experience. But actually, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes you don't realize that you know things that other people don't know, because you're so involved in your world, and you forget to think that, well, not everybody knows how to do this. So it's even as simple as creating slides. Like, to me, it's simple to create slides, but some people have never created a slide before and don't know even how to start. So whatever it might be, you just need to be one step ahead of your client to be in the game of doing this. Now, the next thing you need in terms of the mindset is clarity. And clarity can really be divided into two parts. So what does success look like for you? So you need to be really clear on what success looks like for you. So is a success for you having back-to-back appointments Monday to Friday? Is that what success is for you? Or is it success that you only work once a week? Or is success to you making a certain monetary goal each month? What is success to you? And if you don't set this out early on, you're never going to achieve it, because you're never going to know if you've reached where you need to reach. And so in the early days, it might be success might be having 2 paid clients a month. And then in a few months, you might think, well, actually, I need to up that game. I need to reach 5. But it's really important that you do set out where you're going, because you're never going to know if you get there. And if you're not striving for something, it is sometimes really hard to keep up the motivation. So I would definitely recommend that you do set out what success looks like for you, both lifestyle success and other success, business success, monetary success. Does success look like for you training a whole team of people to deliver coaching or workshops on your behalf? Is that what success is? But you need to know where we're going. And there's that analogy that if you've got a satellite navigator in your car, it can be there and it can do all the things it can do. But if you get in the car and you don't set the destination, it's never going to get you there because it doesn't know where you're going. So you can just keep driving round and round, and the sat nav will tell you where you are, but you won't ever realize, you won't get to the destination because you haven't set it. And then this is super important. What does success look like for your clients? Because sometimes our definition of success for our clients could be way more than they ever want to achieve. I mean, a client might just want to get to the place where they can set up a phone call and have a conversation with someone, and that would be their definition of success. But we might think, right, our clients need to have 50 paid clients a month and have a website with 10,000 visitors a month. And we often set ourselves higher goals for ourselves and our clients. So make sure you find out what outcomes your client is wanting and get clarity around what success looks like for them. So often when I'm coaching, I will ask them where they want to be in 12 months. And so say that's, I want to have 50 clients by next month. I'll say, well, how many have you got now? And if they've got none now, that means you've got to find 50 clients in the next 12 months. And you can then break it down into goals. So in 6 months, you need to have 25 clients, and then you're halfway between it. And then you can break it down month by month, because then it's a lot easier to do. Because if you've got to find 5 clients a month, that seems achievable. But finding 50 seems much bigger and much less achievable. So always ask your client what success looks like for them and do it early on. So set yourself the goals, like I was saying, and maybe pause the video and spend 5 minutes writing down what your goals are and when you want to achieve them by, because this will give you can deviate from it, but just give yourself a roadmap. So when I wrote my book, I worked with a mentor, and he said, we discussed, okay, when do you want to publish this by? And I think we had our first meeting in November, and we discussed it and said, okay, we want to publish it by February. And then in the end, by the time I had to get it back to be proofread, I had 5 weeks to write the book, and I wrote the book. And since then, I procrastinated and not rewritten another book because I didn't set the goal. So set yourself a goal, because it's really important if you want to achieve the things that you're setting out to do. So pause the video and have a go at writing down what goals you're going to set yourself. Just do it for a couple of minutes, because time will go past and you'll turn this off and you'll go and watch the television or take the dog for a walk and you'll forget about it. So set yourself some goals. And the first goal could be finish this course. And you'll be doing a lot better than many people who never get around to finishing courses. So pause the video and I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so I hope you set yourself some goals, and I hope that you thought about some of these things. And if you haven't, you can pause again and just give a few seconds to think about them. So firstly, how many clients do you want and by when? So if you want 1 client by the end of the month, write that down. How much money do you want to make? So how much money do you want to make per client? And you can then set it down in different ways. You can do, because a client, you can go into it in really deep ways. So you could say, I want to have 5 coaching clients I want to have 5 coaching hours per client. Or you might say, I want to take on a client for 6 months. So if you want to take on a client for 6 months, you want to set out to your client, the journey you're going to take them on, which is over a 6-month period. But you need to know what you want to do. So there's no set way of doing this. It's about aligning yourself to what you want to achieve and what your definition of success is, which leads on to, how many hours a week do you want to work? Because if you only want to work a couple of hours, then you're going to have to think about finding higher net worth of people who can afford higher fees if your expertise is at a higher level. So think about that and, how many hours a week you want to work. And now this is super important. And this is about, have you invested in yourself? Because any mentor you have or coach or anyone worth their weight in gold has many mentors and many coaches themselves. So in this picture, that's me with my book coach, and we spent a whole day. I think it cost £1,500 or something. So we spent a long time together going through and planning a book out together, and which has obviously given me, not only has it given me outlines for a book, but it also gave me the opportunity to learn more about the book process. So if someone asks me about how do you do a book, I've got more of an idea because I've learned it from a mentor. And my mentor here is a guy called Joe Gregory, and he works with Rethink Press, and he has published loads of books. He's an author himself. And so that's why I invested in him, because I knew he'd been on the journey before me, and I knew that he could help me. And when you're trying to think about what you're going to be coaching in, think about your skills and what you've done in your life, because that is the kind of gold that you can share with others. So think about that. And because if you're going to charge high coaching fees to people, would you pay them to someone who's never been coached themselves? Because everybody needs their own coach and their own motivator. So I've coached people in the past, and I've encouraged them to write a book, and they say, if it wasn't for you, Claire, I would never have got around and written that book. But equally, it's so much harder for me to coach myself and make me write the next book, because it just doesn't work like that. It's like you need your own coach, and anybody has their own coach or mentor who helps them move on their own journey. So have you invested in yourself? So yes, this course is great, but you need to find someone else, and you need to find a network of people who are going to take you to where you want to be long term. So you need someone to be your cheerleader, to be your sounding board. And if you are not prepared to invest money in yourself, why would anybody invest money in you? So over the years, I spent tens of thousands of pounds on mentoring, training, courses, everything. And that's where my experience comes from. And that's why I can charge higher for my training, because I've invested so much in myself. So here are 3 mindsets that you might be thinking about. So have you adopted the right lifestyle mindset? So do your goals align with where you want to be and how you want to live your life? So if you want to be able to travel all around the world, you might be thinking about, okay, well, what kind of time zones do I want to work with, and who can I work with compared to where I want to be in the world? And are you charging too little and giving too much? In which case you are going to be tied to your computer and tied to your desk. So you need to think about things around there, and that, that mindset, like what lifestyle do you want to create? Because when you know what you want to create for your life, you can then fit this into it and not the other way around, because you want to be able to live, and the working aspect is, part of that journey, rather than you having to work just to live. So, and if you're just working to live and you're running around that treadmill and you're just exhausted and you're chasing clients and you're filling your days, running all over the place, following up clients, emailing, feeling exhausted, you're not going to be happy with this coaching business. So if the more you address this early on, the better it's going to be for you as you develop. Because work-life balance is super important. And ultimately, if you go into, working for yourself is sometimes so much harder than having a paid job, because a paid job, that you're going to get a certain amount in each month, as long as you turn up between whatever hours you're working. But if you work for yourself, you don't know that. You don't know whether you're going to get a client in the month, or a client might drop out or anything like that. So it's really important that you set up in your mind what you're trying to achieve and get that work-life balance that will really resonate with you and make you feel excited every day to be doing your work. So outcomes are really more important to communicate than the process. So it's something that I've learned over many years. So this is my community, Like-Hearted Leaders. And the outcome of us meeting every Friday, and that's not everybody, it was just one screenshot, but we meet every Friday and we connect and we share and we talk about business and life. And the community is super engaged. And the people in the community really feel connected to each other. And that is the outcome. It's engagement, it's connection, it's solidarity, it's being able to be vulnerable, it's around leadership, all of those things. Now, the process to get there is, the process for me was building community. So it was connecting with people in a Facebook group. It was sending out individual messages. It was setting up a Zoom call. It was making sure people got on that Zoom call. It was facilitating the time we were all together to have solid conversations, to pose interesting questions. And this has been going now for over a year, and people still show up every week. And that's because people they just feel connected, and the outcome, that's what's important. They don't really much care about the process they took to get them, but they show up each week because they are feeling fulfilled from being together and connecting. So when you have got clients, or when you're taking on a new client, you need to convey to them what the outcome will be. How will it be? Life will be easier after they work with you. So if you are a fitness trainer, you can say that after working with me for 6 months, then you will be 3 stone lighter. That's the outcome. And in between that, there's going to be training sessions, diet plans, nutrition, weigh-ins, early morning starts, all the rest of it. Now, the client will probably be excited about the 3 stone loss, and maybe not going to be so excited about getting up at 6 a.m. in the rain and going out for a run. So if you are onboarding clients and you start talking to them about so you're going to have to get up at 6 a.m. even if it's raining and it's cold, and then you're going to have to run in the dark when it's the winter, and then you're going to come back and you're going to have this not very pleasant smoothie because it's going to have spirulina in it and spinach and blah, blah, blah. And then you're going to feel really achy, but in 6 months, you will have lost 3 stone. Now, I'm not really buying into that. However, if you explain, the outcome is you're going to fit in your clothes better. You're going to feel healthier. You're going to feel more alive. You're going to feel more energized. You're going to be able to play with your children more. All of these things. Then I'm like, yes, that's what I want. And then even though the process is a bit icky, you just get in it because you're on board for that outcome. So remember to communicate that when you're doing and speaking to people and potential clients. So put another way, think solutions. So clients do come for the solutions, and you need to be confident that you can provide a solution to any problem they may have. And if you don't believe you can provide a solution, you firstly are probably not going to attract the clients in the first place, but also that comes back to the thing we're talking about, confidence and clarity. So you need to believe that you can create these solutions that the clients are looking for and have that inner confidence that you can. And that's going to set you up with strong foundations for success. So think about that when you are, setting up your product, and think about, okay, well, what solutions am I providing, and start there rather than thinking about the process like I was just explaining. Now, when you are in a coaching session, it might be that you don't know the answer. And there's several ways you can approach this. So you could say something like, okay, well, there's different approaches to this question, or, well, we could look at this in different ways, and I need to learn a bit more about whatever it is you're talking about in order to give you the most effective solution. Or you might say, okay, well, I can't give you an answer to that right now because it depends on doing a little bit more research in this or that. So don't just say, I don't know. You need to keep on that confidence and clarity ladder of feeling like you can find the solution. So you could also say something like, okay, I think it'd be in respect to that question, I hear what you're saying. I'd like to send you over. I'm going to research some documents that I now can get my hands on, and I'll email them to you later. Or it's difficult for me to give examples without being in there, but there's different ways to approach it. The way you don't approach it is say, I've got no idea. That's a ridiculous question. I mean, sometimes you can say, that's not actually my area of expertise. However, I can refer you to, or I will speak to my colleague, not my colleague, but I'll speak to my mentor. So speaking to your mentor is often a very good way forward with this. But after the call and say, this came up in my coaching, how can I answer this? So, but don't worry, because you won't necessarily know the answer to every single question. But where you're confident about helping your client and where you know you can get them the outcome. So if someone's training and they say, should I be using this supplement? You could say, oh, well, actually, I'm not familiar with that supplement. Let me just do some research and I can get back to you. And you see, you don't know the answer, but it's an easy way to respond to them, and then they haven't lost any confidence in you. And finally, think about, can you collaborate? Because mindset is enhanced where you have the opportunity to have conversations with people who are in the same boat as you. And think about as well, like, who's in your network. So can you collaborate and with others who are maybe in a similar niche, or maybe they have an audience already that your product might be good for, your coaching might be good for. And you could see if you get interviews on podcasts, because that raises your profile as well. And it's another way to market yourself. But collaboration is a really great way to really, grow your profile and think of different routes to market. Because, for example, writing a blog post, you can write a guest blog post and you will reach a new audience that you haven't got yourself. So even if you haven't got any audience at all, there are ways to meet and get introduced and for others to get to know you without, just not panicking that you don't know enough people to start coaching people. So, and can you find influencers as well? So influencers, they have a big audience themselves. Can you get in contact with them? Is there something you can offer them to support you? And like I say, in the early days, if you offer your coaching for free, you can then go on and get, testimonials and that kind of thing. So collaboration is a great mindset to have, because things take much longer when you're on your own. But where you find someone to collaborate with, you're immediately expanding your reach and your network, because people have already got their connections and people trust whoever you're going to work with. So you can shortcut things that way. So hopefully that gave you some insights into having a successful mindset and the things that you can do, and the ways you can approach building a coaching business around, how you're, being just doing everything solo can be so much harder. But having a great network and support around you will really increase your chances of success. So think about what I've said, and reach out to people early on, build relationships, and make sure you don't start by asking for something. You need to give first. So it's, if Gary Vaynerchuk, he talks about give, right hook, and jab, he says. So it's give, and then jab. So it's like the boxing analogy. So you give before you ask. And when you approach people in that way, you're much more likely to get success. So hopefully you've enjoyed that module, and I will see you in the next one.